Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain Commitment. This movie tells the story of a North Korean secret agent who must carry out a mission in South Korea to save his younger sister. When his opponent is not only the South Korean police, can he carry out the mission and save his sister? Let's find out in Commitment. Commitment begins by showing a man named Lee Young-ho drinking soju at a small shop owned by an old woman who is a North Korean spy. Likewise with Young-ho, who is a North Korean intelligence agent. He has just completed a secret mission in South Korea. But on his way home, he is surrounded by the South Korean police. Young-ho, who is in a corner, doesn't show any resistance and intends to turn himself in. However, he is shot dead for showing a suspicious attitude. The scene then switches to show the situation in a prison where siblings named Young-hoon and Hye-in are languishing in it. Young-hoon and his sister were deliberately put in prison as a guarantee that their father, Young-ho, who was on a mission in South Korea. Young-ho's superior, Colonel Moon Sang-chul, then summons 19-year-old Young-hoon and offers freedom for himself and his sister if he is willing to become a North Korean intelligence agent. 2 years later, the scene shows a North Korean secret agent nicknamed Big Dipper from Unit 35. Big Dipper is assigned to eliminate all North Korean spy agents from Unit 8 because the government factions that overshadow them are against each other. On the other hand, Young-hoon finally arrives in South Korea to carry out his mission. Young-hoon is adopted by a husband and wife who are also undercover North Korean spies. He later changed his name to Kang Tae-ho. To perfect his disguise, Tae-ho attends a high school not far from where he lives. After introducing himself in front of the class, he takes the only empty seat next to a quiet student named Lee Hye-in. It was a coincidence because the girl's name was very similar to his sister's name. During recess, a group of delinquent students come to Tae-ho and Hye-in's seats. They intend to bully Hye-in. One of the delinquent students acts friendly to Tae-ho by wrapping his arm around his shoulder. However, Tae-ho then brushed it off roughly. Because he is presumptuous, they threaten Tae-ho and tell him to come to the school rooftop. The delinquent students try to gang up on Tae-ho and take all his money. Tae-ho tries to restrain himself from putting up a fight because the consequences will be dire. However, his patience is running low, especially after one of the bullying students finds a photo of his family. Annoyed, he grabs his family photo and stashes it safely in his pocket. Just as the bullies were about to beat up Tae-ho, a teacher came to the school's rooftop and dismissed them all. Arriving home, Tae-ho receives a package containing a cell phone. Shortly after activating it, he gets a phone call from Colonel Moon ordering him to kill Big Dipper. Colonel Moon then orders Tae-ho to go to a pharmacy and pastry shop whose owners are North Korean intelligence agents Unit 8 like himself. He gets a gun to kill the Big Dipper hidden in the cake from the pastry shop owner. After getting information about the addresses of Big Dipper's men, he immediately visited him and met a fat man who didn't want to reveal any information regarding Big Dipper. Not getting any information, he then kills the man. Tae-ho investigates the man's belongings and finds the address of the butcher shop he regularly visits. He then goes there. A butcher handed him a piece of paper with Big Dipper's license plate number on it. However, just as he is about to leave, the butcher tries to kill him. But he can defeat him and take the man's life. Long story short, Tae-ho manages to find Big Dipper's car and begins to follow him. While driving down the highway, the car driver seemed to notice that someone was following him. The driver then accelerates the car, trying to avoid Tae-ho's pursuit. However, the car then skidded and hit the road divider. Since the incident of a minor accident attracted the attention of many people, Tae-ho couldn't help but rush away from the scene of the crime. The next day at school, Tae-ho catches delinquent students bullying Hye-in and takes her to a room. In the chemistry lab, the delinquent students extort all of Hye-in's money. The girl tried to fight off the bullies, but accidentally her shirt was torn and her underwear was revealed. Tae-ho, who thought that the delinquent students would beat Hye-in, then beat them all up. He can easily beat the school thugs. He then lent his shirt to Hye-in to cover her body. The next day, Hye-in missed school without a clear explanation. Tae-ho, who is a little worried about her condition after yesterday's bullying, tries to find out her address through the delinquent students who often bullied her. Fearing that Tae-ho will beat up again, they finally tell Tae-ho the address where Hye-in works. However, when Tae-ho came there, one of Hye-in's co-workers told him that Hye-in had stopped working yesterday and decided to quit school. Not long ago, Hye-in changed her appearance by cutting her hair short. He goes to Tae-ho and returns his shirt. She then asks Tae-ho to pretend to be her brother so that she can be accepted to work in another place that pays quite a lot. Tae-ho is happy to help. Hye-in then talked about herself who just lived alone and had to support herself after her parents died. Tae-ho seems touched and sympathetic after hearing her story, even though his situation isn't any better than hers. On the other hand, Big Dipper apparently already knows Di-ho's identity and finds his house. Without further ado, Big Dipper immediately kills Di-ho's adoptive parents and destroys all the treasures in the house. When he gets home, Di-ho is shocked to learn that his adoptive parents have been murdered and that their killer, Big Dipper, is waiting for him in the house. A fierce battle between the two North Korean intelligence agents was inevitable. Both of them excel in close combat and master very great fighting skills. However, Di-ho turns out to outperform the much more senior Big Dipper and ends up killing him. Di-ho then burns his house along with the bodies of his adoptive parents and Big Dipper to leave a trail. Since Big Dipper is dead, Di-ho assumes that his mission is complete. To that end, he goes to a simple tavern owned by the old woman seen at the beginning of the film. Apparently, every North Korean intelligence agent who has completed their mission in South Korea will come to the tavern to return to their country. However, before the woman serves Di-ho a drink, he collapses unconscious. The next day, a South Korean intelligence agent, Jung-min, visits Di-ho's burned-down house to investigate. Jung-min and his partner find the school attribute pinned to Di-ho's uniform from the remains of the fire. After conducting an investigation, he can finally uncover the truth about Di-ho's real identity, namely a North Korean spy named Lee Myung-hoon. On the other hand, the old woman who owns the tavern takes care of the fainted Di-ho and serves him food when he wakes up. While eating his meal, Di-ho tells the old woman about his family. Di-ho then shows his family photo to the woman, who immediately realizes that Di-ho is Lee Young-ho's eldest son. While at the tavern, he receives a cell phone package indicating that his mission in South Korea is not over. Through the cell phone, Colonel Moon calls Di-ho and gives him a final mission before returning to North Korea and free his younger sister. Colonel Moon orders him to take all the treasures Big Dipper and his comrades have confiscated during their campaign. The loot the colonel was referring to was a diamond worth nearly 40 million won. To prevent Di-ho from defecting, Colonel Moon sends a video recording showing Hye-in's condition. Seeing his sister's smile, he is determined to complete his mission and return to North Korea as soon as possible. Without lingering, Di-ho immediately headed to a building that was allegedly the location for buying and selling diamonds. He beats everyone there and snatches a diamond worth millions of won. That evening, he returns to the tavern to say goodbye to the old woman who had helped him since he returned to his country. He also takes the time to meet Hye-in and say goodbye before leaving for the port. While waiting for the ship to take him back to North Korea, a man stabs him, saying no agent ever comes home. Luckily, he is still able to fight back and kill the man. At the same time, the South Korean intelligence agency's special forces managed to catch a North Korean spy group disguised as South Korean residents. All North Korean intelligence agents Unit 8 was arrested, as was the old woman who owned the tavern. Di-ho, who was in the vicinity, saw when the police shot the old woman dead for trying to fight the police. Di-ho can only cry silently watching the old woman's tragic death. In his frustration and despair, he then goes to Hye-in's house to hide. Arriving there, Hye-in immediately helped Di-ho and treated his injuries. When Di-ho is asleep, Hye-in watches a news broadcast on television that broadcasts about a group of North Korean intelligence agents being fugitives. Hye-in sees information about Di-ho, who is on the wanted list. She finally finds out Di-ho's true identity, but she couldn't bear to complain Di-ho to the police because the young man had helped her a lot. Hye-in then went to the supermarket to buy groceries. After returning from there, she is visited by Jung-min, who knows the closeness between her and Di-ho. Jung-min then asks Hye-in about Di-ho's whereabouts. However, Hye-in lied by saying that she never saw Di-ho again. Jung-min then gives Hye-in his business card to contact him if she finds out any information about Di-ho. Long story short, Colonel Moon came to South Korea with Di-ho's younger sister. Colonel Moon assumes that Di-ho has defected and is now siding with South Korea. The colonel then calls Di-ho and says that he has arrived in South Korea with Hye-in. He asks Di-ho to meet him somewhere and bring the diamond. In exchange, the colonel will free his sister. Behind the door, Hye-in quietly overhears Di-ho's conversation with Colonel Moon. Before seeing Colonel Moon, Di-ho said goodbye to Hye-in by writing a letter telling her to be willing to take care of his younger sister, in case anything bad happened to him. A worried Hye-in then calls Jung-min and tells him about Di-ho's situation. Meanwhile, Di-ho finally runs into Colonel Moon in a parking building. Di-ho sees Hye-in in a car tied up. Hye-in, who also saw her brother from a distance, looked scared and tried to call out to him. Di-ho shows Colonel Moon a black bag filled with diamonds. However, just as he is about to hand over the diamond, one of Colonel Moon's men tries to shoot Di-ho from a distance, but successfully thwarted by South Korean intelligence agents. A shootout between intelligence agents was unavoidable. Feeling that the situation was not conducive, Colonel Moon tried to escape from the place by car. Seeing his younger sister being taken away by Colonel Moon, Dee-ho immediately chases after her. However, Colonel Moon's escape did not last long because the police had surrounded the place. Colonel Moon managed to escape and Hye-in was arrested by the police. Dee-ho, who witnessed the incident from a distance, then fled so that he would not be caught by the police. On the other hand, when a South Korean intelligence agent secures Hye-in and Dee-ho's personal belongings, one of Colonel Moon's men kills the agent and kidnaps Hye-in. Colonel Moon then calls Dee-ho and threatens to kill Hye-in if he doesn't hand over the loot to him. Dee-ho, who is getting increasingly desperate, calls Jung-min and promises to turn himself into the police after clearing everything up. He then begs Jung-min to let him talk to his younger sister. Dee-ho feels a little relieved after hearing his sister's voice, who he misses so much from being apart for so long. Dee-ho cries in frustration with all the bad luck that has befallen him. However, he must finish it so that his sister can live happily ever after. Before long, Dee-ho finally arrives at the location of his rendezvous with Colonel Moon. Dee-ho shows the Colonel the diamond. However, he has no intention of letting Colonel Moon get what he wants because he's been using him all along for a handful of booty diamonds. Dee-ho then throws the diamond away and immediately shoots Colonel Moon's men. After successfully rescuing Hye-in, he detonates the bomb he had prepared to kill Colonel Moon and his henchmen. When Dee-ho and Hye-in are about to escape from there, one of Colonel Moon's men who are still alive tries to attack Dee-ho. Dee-ho tries to fight back and tells Hye-in to leave immediately. On the other hand, it turns out that Colonel Moon survived the bomb explosion and can still stand. However, just as the Colonel is about to kill Dee-ho, Jung-min arrives and another shootout ensues. Dee-ho eventually manages to kill Colonel Moon, but he suffers a very severe gunshot wound. Jung-min and Hye-in rush to save Dee-ho and take him to the hospital. However, on the way to the hospital, Dee-ho, who was already dying from his injuries, finally breathed his last in the arms and cries of Hye-in, who was devastated by Dee-ho's death. The film ends by showing Hye-in walking with Dee-ho's younger sister. The two talk to each other while reminiscing about Dee-ho when the young man was still alive. Hye-in tries to fulfill Dee-ho's last wish, which tells her to always protect his sister.